Ever think about like the ultimate strategic win? You know, achieving your objective so completely that like your opponent's basically defeated before anything even happens.
Yeah, it's like they never even saw it coming.
It's like the pinnacle of strategy.
Right.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today.
Right into the deep end.
Yeah, we're going deep on this one. We're talking Sun Tzu's Art of War, specifically Chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem.
Forget those images of massive armies clashing head on.
Yeah, none of that.
No. Today, we're dissecting how to achieve victory through clever positioning, maneuvering,
The brain stuff.
making direct conflict, well, not just, less appealing, but completely unnecessary.
Unnecessary. Like, why even bother?
Exactly. And we'll see this principle at play everywhere, by the way.
Everywhere.
Political campaigns, the complexities of business, even sports.
So some really interesting examples, I think. We'll be looking at things like how the Obama 2008 campaign operated.
Oh, yeah. That was masterclass.
And then, of course, we have Trump's strategy in 2024.
Different approach, but still fascinating from a strategic perspective.
Totally. And then we can't forget about business titans like Apple, how they approach the market.
They play the long game.
They really do. And then even like the subtle strategic battles that happen in athletic competitions.
Everywhere you look, there's strategy unfolding.
Right. But of course, we have to acknowledge those times when, maybe a direct confrontation can't be avoided.
Yeah, sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves.
Right. So it all comes back to the art of war, arguably the most influential military text ever written.
Written centuries ago, but still so relevant today.
It's crazy, right? It was translated, by the way, by Lionel Giles in 1910.
Great translation, really captures the essence of Sun Tzu's thinking.
Yeah. And Chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem. This is where Sun Tzu really lays out his philosophy on achieving victory, but with minimal conflict.
That's the key, minimal conflict.
Right. So to really get into the heart of it, let's go right to a quote from Sun Tzu himself.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this is from Chapter 3, Verse 2. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting.
Powerful stuff.
So powerful. So for you, the listener, this is the central idea that we're going to be unpacking today.
We're going to break it down piece by piece.
Yeah. This deep dive is your shortcut to understanding this principle of strategic avoidance and how it can be applied across different parts of life.
Because it's not just about war.
No, not at all.
These are universal principles.
Universal. So one thing that I find fascinating is how Sun Tzu actually begins this chapter.
Yeah, it's really insightful.
He emphasizes that the highest goal isn't to obliterate the enemy's country, but to take it whole and intact.
Destruction is the least desirable outcome. You want to preserve value, not destroy it.
Right. It's interesting. He actually applies that same logic to armies. So capturing an entire army is superior to destroying it piece by piece.
Makes sense. You gain more resources, more manpower. You weaken your enemy more comprehensively.
Right. So right from the beginning, the emphasis is on achieving your goal with the least amount of destruction and loss.
Absolutely.
That idea that resonates far beyond just military strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about efficiency. It's about minimizing collateral damage. Think about it in the context of, say, negotiating a deal.
Okay, yeah.
You want an outcome where both sides feel like they've gained something.
You want a win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not a scorched earth victory where everyone loses in the end.
Right. Not at all costs.
Exactly.
So that brings us back to that core idea. Supreme excellence lies in breaking the enemy's resistance without actually fighting.
It's about strategic dismantling of their will to engage.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. So how do you actually do that?
Right. How do you break someone's will without a fight?
Yeah, how do you make them not even want to fight you in the first place?
Well, Sun Tzu outlines a clear hierarchy of strategic approaches.
Okay, so he has a plan.
He has a plan.
Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Absolutely. So at the very top, the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans.
Balk the enemy's plans.
Yeah. And this is about preemptively disrupting their strategy before they can even implement it.
So think ahead, basically.
Think ahead, outmaneuver them mentally before any physical action takes place.
So instead of reacting, you're anticipating their moves, and basically you're neutralizing their intentions from the start.
Right. It's a much more proactive stance.
Proactive, I like that. What's next in the hierarchy?
Okay, so the next most effective approach is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces.
Okay, so keep them separated.
Exactly. If your opponent's strength comes from, like, combining their resources, their units, you want to keep them isolated, unable to support each other. Classic divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, but strategically.
Strategically before any major confrontation even happens.
Right. Got it. And then I guess we get to the actual combat part, right?
Yeah, so the next level down is to attack the enemy's army in the field. So this is direct engagement, but even this is seen as preferable to the least desirable option,
Which is?
which is to besiege walled cities.
Siege warfare. We've all seen it in movies and read about it. Why is that the worst case scenario for Sun Tzu?
Well, think about it. Sieges, they're incredibly resource intensive,
Yeah.
time consuming.
They could drag on forever.
Oh, they drag on for months, sometimes years, and often lead to devastating losses on both sides.
It's just a brutal slog.
Yeah, Sun Tzu describes, the immense effort required to prepare for a siege.
Just to get ready.
Yeah, and then the horrific casualties that can result from, these futile assaults on these fortified positions.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
It's a picture of desperation and attrition, a clear sign of strategic failure.
So, big takeaway here.
Huh.
The best strategy: gain control of the battlefield, metaphorically speaking, of course, before direct conflict even starts.
Before the first shot is fired.
Exactly. It's about setting the stage for victory.
Through strategic positioning and maneuvering.
Okay, so this is where we see how Sun Tzu's insights apply to so many areas beyond just warfare.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, so let's actually look at Barack Obama's 2008 presidential campaign.
A classic example of this in action.
That campaign really captured the energy of the time, right?
Yeah.
How did it embody this whole idea of winning without fighting?
Well, the Obama campaign, they mastered that principle of balking the enemy's plans, right?
They were ahead of the game.
Way ahead. They fundamentally changed the political landscape. They built this unprecedented grassroots movement, leveraging digital media to connect directly with voters.
Direct connection.
Yeah, and they empowered small dollar donors. This created this massive base of support and financial resources that traditional Republican strategies they struggled to counter.
They didn't know what hit them.
It wasn't about reacting to Republican attacks. It was about building this parallel force that made those attacks less effective.
Interesting. So instead of focusing on direct confrontation, Obama's strategy was more about building up this huge positive movement that kind of sidestepped the traditional political battle lines.
Exactly. They mobilized this widespread enthusiasm. Hope and change. They controlled the narrative around these themes. And they effectively broke the enemy's resistance without fighting. They shifted the whole conversation.
Right.
Made the opposition's traditional playbook irrelevant.
It's like they changed the rules of the game.
They changed the rules of the game. They won over undecided voters, energized their base with a compelling vision and superior organization, minimizing the need for, overtly aggressive attacks that could have alienated people.
Smart. Okay, so let's jump to a more recent example. Donald Trump's 2024 strategy, at least as we've heard about it.
Right, still unfolding.
It feels very different in tone, in tactics. How does that align with Sun Tzu's principles, though, of winning before the fight?
Okay, so the methods, they might seem completely different.
Night and day.
But Trump's approach is still about controlling the battlefield.
Which, in his case,
is often the media and public perception. He wants to dominate the news cycle, set the agenda, force his opponents to react to him.
He's always on the offensive.
Always. This can be seen as, a form of preventing the junction of the enemy's forces.
Yeah.
He sows division and discord among his rivals.
Keeps them fighting each other.
Exactly. He keeps them off balance.
So it's not about building a unifying movement. It's more about creating chaos and controlling the information flow to keep the opponents off balance, fighting amongst themselves.
Right. He's a master of disruption.
He definitely is.
By dictating the terms of the debate, controlling the narrative through rallies, social media.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He wants to shape public perception, define his opponents before they can define themselves.
Okay, so it's manipulation of the competitive landscape. Very different from Obama, but still, you could say it's about strategic positioning, control of the environment.
Right. It's about winning before the fight even begins.
It's important to say here, though, we're analyzing these campaigns purely as case studies.
Looking at the strategy, not the politics.
Exactly. We're not endorsing any political viewpoints.
No. This is about the how, not the why.
Right. The how of their strategies in relation to Sun Tzu's principles.
Exactly. We're focused on understanding these timeless strategic concepts in a modern context.
Perfect. Okay. So We've seen how this idea of winning without fighting works in the political arena.
High stakes.
High stakes. But how does this translate to other areas? Like, what about business? We talked about Apple earlier.
Apple. They are a fascinating example.
They're kind of in a world of their own.
They really are. They illustrate this idea of achieving market dominance through strategic positioning and controlled engagement.
Controlled engagement. Interesting.
Think about their product release cycles. They rarely rush to be first with a new technology.
They take their time.
They wait, they refine their products meticulously, and then they orchestrate these highly anticipated launch events.
Which everyone talks about.
Exactly. It dominates the media, captures consumer attention.
Yeah, there's always that buzz, that anticipation. It feels like they've already won before the product even hits the shelves.
Right. They've captured mind share before market share.
That's a good way to put it.
By strategically timing their entries, controlling the narrative, they gain a huge advantage without engaging in, direct feature-by-feature battles with competitors in those early stages.
They're not getting bogged down in the weeds.
No. They position themselves as the premium player, the definitive choice, and they force competitors to react to them.
They're setting the pace.
They're setting the pace.
Yeah.
It's breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting for market share.
Long term.
Long term.
It's like they've already established their position on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Just through reputation and these carefully managed launches.
It's brilliant, really.
Okay, so what about sports? It seems like direct confrontation is, like, baked into athletic competition.
Yeah, you can't really avoid it on the field, right? But even in sports, the most successful athletes, the teams, they also excel at winning before the fight starts. They do it through strategic anticipation and control.
The mental game.
The mental game. Think about like a skilled quarterback. He reads the defense before the snap, anticipates the blitz, adjusts the play.
They're seeing things before they happen.
Exactly. Or a boxer who uses, subtle feints and footwork to set up a knockout punch, manipulating their opponent, controlling the fight.
It's not just about being strong or fast. It's about outsmarting your opponent.
It's about strategy.
Understanding their tendencies, exploiting weaknesses before they even fully appear.
They're always a step ahead.
So, with all this talk about winning without fighting, it begs the question, when is direct confrontation actually necessary?
Or even the best option?
Yeah.
It's a good question. Sun Tzu, while advocating for minimizing conflict, he was a realist. He understood that there are times when you can't just outmaneuver the opposition.
When you have to fight.
Right.
And the source material gives us some examples of that, right?
Yeah. Situations where you just can't outsmart everyone.
Okay, what are some of those?
Well, in business, think about a hostile takeover.
High drama.
High drama. A company wants to acquire another, but faces resistance. They might need a more aggressive approach.
They have to play hardball.
Yeah, sometimes you got to make a power move.
Right. Like what was the example in the text?
Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter.
Oh, yeah, that was a whole thing.
That was a battle.
So when strategic negotiation and subtle maneuvering fails...
You got to be ready to engage directly.
Even if it's messy.
Even if it's messy.
What about sports? When is confrontation necessary there?
Well, think about a team that's way behind in the final minutes of a game.
Desperate times.
Desperate times. They might have to abandon their carefully planned strategy, go all out on offense.
Just chuck it down the field.
Take big risks to try and score quickly. The strategic subtlety goes out the window.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah, they have to confront the challenge head on.
And this isn't just in, like, these big scenarios, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can apply to our personal lives, too.
All the time.
The text mentions a personal situation where you're being manipulated.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is. So initially, you might try to avoid it or subtly resist.
Right.
But there might be a point where, you have to confront the person directly.
Set some boundary.
Protect yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the only way.
So it's not just about knowing how to avoid a fight. It's also about knowing when to fight.
Strategic agility.
I like that. Strategic agility. Knowing when to maneuver, when to use force.
It's all part of the game.
So we've really gone deep on Sun Tzu's attack by stratagem here.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And the main thing I'm taking away is strength and resources are important, but
they're not everything.
No, the highest form of success, I think, often comes from strategically shaping the environment to achieve your goals without a lot of direct conflict.
Without all the bloodshed, metaphorical or otherwise. It's about being smart, not just strong.
So, to quote Sun Tzu one last time, the most brilliant leaders don't just prepare for battle, they arrange the circumstances to win before the battle even starts.
They control the game.
So, listener, here's something to think about.
A little homework.
Yeah, a little homework. Think about the principles we've discussed today. Anticipating your opponent's moves, controlling the narrative in your own life, strategic timing.
It's about being proactive.
How can you apply these ideas of attack by stratagem to your everyday life, at work, in negotiations, even in pursuing your personal goals?
Right.
Are there situations where you can be more proactive, shape the battlefield, so to speak, to achieve your goals more efficiently and with less friction?
Minimize the conflict, maximize the results.
Exactly.
It's a powerful approach.
If you found this deep dive into strategic thinking valuable, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future explorations.
Because we've got a lot more to come.
We do. In our next deep dive, we're going to be continuing our journey through Sun Tzu's Art of War.
We're moving on to Chapter 4.
Chapter 4, Tactical Dispositions.
We're going to delve into how to strategically position yourself for guaranteed success.
So, building on what we talked about today.
Taking it to the next level.
How to arrange your forces, your resources, your skills, your relationships to make sure victory is within your grasp.
It's all about positioning.
And if you haven't had a chance to listen to our previous deep dives, you can find them all in our archives.
We cover a lot of ground.
We do. We really try to give you that shortcut to being well-informed.
On all sorts of fascinating topics.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to continuing this exploration with you.
See you next time.